On this episode, I am up way too early to go work on my car. Remain sealed day on the 67. On this episode, we replaced the rear main seal on the 1967 Mustang. What could go wrong? Everything. Alright, we're back in the North Sea Cruiser this morning, heading over to a friend of mine's shop who has graciously allowed me to borrow his lift. We delivered the 67 there last night, and so it'll be cold this morning when we work on it. So, on deck today, rear main seal replacement. So, if you remember, I did not videotape my efforts on replacing the oil pan and transpan gaskets, filters, and fluid because it's normal routine maintenance. I didn't think that would be entertaining. It turned out it could have been very entertaining, actually. And I picked up a few things I didn't remember that I needed to come out of the car before the oil pan was dropped. And that's why I do these videos, because if someone can learn from my mistakes or learn something from what we're doing, and then go back to their project and it saves them some time, then of course that's the win, and that's the reason why we do this. So anyways, should have filmed it. But anyways, while I had the pan down, I should have replaced the rear main seal. I had a suspicion it was leaking, but I had enough leaks around the gaskets and wet on the bottom of the car, really couldn't tell. Even though I used a one-piece Velcro silicone gasket, which is supposed to be reusable, it was leaking. I tried to mitigate that, and it just needed to be replaced. So I did put another one in. So we've only had the car on the road a couple times since then, a couple hundred miles. So I think we can safely pull the pan back down, and possibly if I can pull it from the gasket side, then the gasket can stay on the motor. So anyways, that's what we should have done, and I didn't, so here we are going to do it again, and hopefully we could just recycle the oil. I've got a catch pan and a funnel with a filter, so I should be able to put that right back into the car. So anyways, that's what's on deck. Rear main seal replacement, and we will get into more details on that when we get closer. So, and if that goes really well and only takes a couple hours like we anticipate, nope. This is my car we're talking about. But if some miracle happens and it does go well, then on deck after that is going to be putting in the neutral safety switch. Should be a simple process. We'll replace the old one that went out, and then we can get that functioning again, including my backup lights. And then I want to get that brake switch hardware and the plastic sleeve and the nylon washers, and hopefully that'll kind of help that from rotating, and maybe my brake lights will engage more than they don't. So that's what we're doing today, and yeah. It should only take a couple hours or 3 to do all that. We'll walk you through those steps. All right, so we've started on the very basics here. Oil is drained now, and the 2 things that is recommended, or 3 things that's recommended, is take the idler arm apart so you can get a little clearance here. Earlier, I took my torsion bar off, but I'm not sure that that's needed, because once you pull the cross member, I think it'll pull right down. Now, we are supposed to pull the starter, but I have a bolt here that gave me trouble, and I was able to pull this without removing the starter. It's just hard to get into these bolts here. I had to use a thin socket, but I'm pretty sure I can drop this again without pulling that. But if we have to, we have to. All right, so we've got the oil pan off and the gasket out of the way. And on the 302s, I know a lot of engines you're supposed to pull the transmission and do the rear main seal, but on the 302s, we should just be able to take this main rear bearing cap off, and it's a 2-piece, should be a 2-piece seal, and then it should be clocked. So there should be like an open in here or there, and then the others up in there. And then we can take an awl, drive the old one out, and then basically lube up the new one and drive it in, clock it, put this main cap back in. Of course, some videos say to put assembly grease on the bearing or oil, and we're going to do that. Some mechanics suggest putting silicone or sealant on the ends of the seal, but yet we're looking at a service manual that does not mention putting a sealant on the ends of the two-piece main seal. So we may discuss that before doing it, but we do have the black sealant. So if we so choose to put that on the ends, we have it. I think it's safe to do that. But anyways, we're gonna get cranking at it. So as we got this bearing camp out, we just realized, looks like blue silicone in there. Now, of course, it's also wore out. You can see, it was pointed out, you can see here where it's on the crank, so that's got to be, yeah, that's definitely going to cause a leak. But then we see the silicone here, and that's not supposed to be there. It specifically says no silicone except for on the ends, if you put it on there. So we got a straight edge in there, and we were trying to get the surface rust off of that crank. That wasn't working, so we cut a piece of Scotch-Brite, and it fits in there perfectly. And I'm taking the straight edge screwdriver and working that through, and it's taking that, cleaning it off real nice. So real happy with that. So as we were rotating the engine around to get the rest of the crank surface here, look at this green. We're a little baffled on what that is. I think it's some sort of an RTV, but it wasn't on the bottom. But yeah, not sure. We're gonna clean all that off too. We have the other seal that come out of the car, and look at this, silicone as well. So this is gonna be interesting. We're thinking we'll run that through there and see if we can get some of the silicone. But yeah, you're not supposed to silicone these. But somebody did on this engine, and that's okay. We'll get it cleaned up and we'll get the new ones in and see what happens. But this will cause a leak. I know that for a fact. Well, I haven't hit it with the brush yet either, so because we had the silicone in there, we're trying to think of, most of it come out on the seal, but we still want to try to clean it, make sure it's cleaned out. And just in some videos, in some videos, we did take an awl and we were able to drive it out far enough on this side where we got needle nose and pulled the seal out. So, but we did have to loosen the bearing caps to let the crank drop, get the pressure off of it because of the silicone. Now, if the silicone wasn't in there, probably wouldn't have to do that. So we couldn't get the bottle brush through, so my friend Richard suggested let's use a piece of wire. Look at that, it got silicone out on the ends. I can see it, got a little blue there. Yeah. So there was a little bit in there. We're gonna run that through again. Yeah, we're gonna run that through again and see if we can get more out. All right, so this is an ingenious way of cleaning this out. Got that wire in there, turn the copper backwards, and then put it on a drill and slowly works it back out. And I'm seeing more chunks and debris being thrown onto the cam, and that just means it's loosening it up. So this is ingenious. See guys, like I said, sometimes I learn something new, you guys learn something new. For the instructions, when you put these new seals in, you take that pin out. It can malform the gasket, cause a leak. We did try to make it even, and we just couldn't make it quite even, so we went ahead and drove it the rest of the way out, and I took Scotch-Brite in there and just scuffed around there when we were putting the awl. So now, getting ready to put the seals in. So we put the seals in the oil. Here, there's a little bit in the pan. It just said that you had to lather them, but we went ahead and soaked them anyway, so we can get ready to put those in. recommended 3/8 of an inch on the one side, so she's clopped just a little bit. Nothing sticking out there, just 3/8 here. And now we're getting ready to put the bearing cap in. All right, so we have the caps button up. We did not anticipate loosening any of these except for the rear, so we looked up the sequence. So the sequence is you start with number 3 and work your way out, alternating, and then it suggests an initial torque of 10 to 15 pounds. We just tighten them down by hand, and then the final torque is 60 to 70 pounds. So that's what we did. Even though we didn't loosen the front one, we checked it anyways, just to be sure. We did have to bring the pickup tube off, take that off to get it out of the way for the loosening these up. So if you ever have to do that, put a little Loctite on these. That's what's suggested, and lock that down. And we're about to put the pan on. We're gonna utilize these holders again, but if you remember in the past video, this is not out of the way, so we can't use it on that corner. All right, so it's all buttoned up. Got it torqued down. We took the drain pan gasket off. Not the bolt, not the gasket, but the gasket. Look how it's puckered up on the outside. So it's leaking, a very, very light leak, but enough to, we're gonna go get some lunch and get this taken care of, see if we can get it replaced. All right, new drain plug in. We reattached the idler arm, and cross member is back in now and locked in. So now we just drop the car and put oil in it and make sure there's no leaks. Of course, we still got to do this. We're going to switch out the neutral safety switch real quick. All right, so we have the new neutral safety switch in. It's not locked down yet. I just got a bolt on here. Basically just took the bolt off to this lever, or the nut off of that lever, and then took this bolt out. This is the adjuster. Anyways, so we got to line these up, these holes here, but it was kind of a booger. We were trying to get it off, and off the shaft, of course, there's a groove. You know, you got to make sure that's, but it just would knock them off. So we got a little pry bar, a very small handheld pry bar, and just pulled loose just enough that I can pull it off by hand. But by hand, first it wasn't. But now it's up there. We'll just get it lined up, hook it all back up, and that should be good. We'll get the jumper out of the way, get it hooked up back on the firewall, into the lead, and we should have backup lights again, and hopefully it will not allow us to crank up in any other gear. So good. While we were underneath here, we decided to check this ground and the leads to the alternator, but this also can drive, as my friend was telling me, the starter. And so we broke it loose to just check to make sure they were clean, and sure enough, there was corrosion in there. And for some reason, I had thick washers in there because I think I thought this bolt was bottoming out and not tightening, but we took them out and it's tight. I don't know what I was thinking, don't know how I ran into that, but they're fine. And then he put in heat shield here because this is a long cable, so we just zip tie that and that'll keep from resistance, what Richard was telling me. And then what we'll do is we'll zip tie, get a little blurry, because it's a long cable, we'll zip tie up there just to keep it out of the fan and alternator. Well, I just got home from my friend's shop where we had the 67 on the lift. So after looking at the bell housing, after driving, fixed. The new rear main seal seems to be doing its job, but we don't have a leak. We ran it in the shop for a good 20-30 minutes. There was nothing that was dripping, and drove it home probably, I'd say about 15 miles. She's dry. Even the pan gasket, after putting it back up together, it's dry. So that's a win. Oh, new neutral safety switch in that. Obviously it cranks up in park, right? Because we got it home. But in reverse, nothing. Neutral, right? First, nothing. Put it back in place. it was an extremely productive day. Nothing went horrible. What probably would have took me 4 hours on my back, 5 hours on my back, just doing disassembly, reassembly, and working with this. Honestly, didn't go that bad. I mean, it took all day to do everything that we want to do, but we probably had, you know, everything out and ready to go within about 45 minutes. And of course, we worked with getting the debris out of the channel, and then of course we had to break for lunch. Went and got a new drain plug because mine, the threads were fine. It's just the washer just puckered. It was just worn out. So it was cheaper to buy a new one with a built-in washer than it was to go get a pack of washers. So we were just going to get some copper washers, break the other one off the thing because it was just stuck up in there. But anyways, yeah, and then of course neutral safety switch, that's in now. So that's perfect. Our brake lights are working tonight. That doesn't mean they're going to be working tomorrow, but we still have to address that. But this is a big win. We finally got all the leaks arrested on the car now. The remaining seals done. New pan gaskets on both the engine, transmission, and now there's going to be, you know, it's going to still burn off the exhaust a little bit. I'll probably have to get underneath there with some lacquer thinner or some Scotch-Brite, you know, and some chemicals and get that off the exhaust and some frame rails. But other than that, I'm real happy with today, and I really appreciate my friend for lending out a shop on a Saturday with the lift to help me with getting this car done a lot quicker than me laying on my back. Probably would have ended up being a 2-day affair, as it always does, but very, very happy. Now we are ready to go on the road next weekend to Lakeland, which is the Mustangs and Mustangs show at Lakeside Village that the Imperial Mustang Club is putting on. So yes, we'll be heading to that. Several of us from this area are caravanning up. Might be a couple groups or so many going. So going to be a good time next weekend, and this car should be ready to roll. Of course, some detailing to do, and you know, wiping it down. Anyways, you guys have a blessed evening. Thank you for following us. I hope you have a blessed evening, and we will see you on the streets.